Well, to start with, I am Katerina Perez. I write about jewelry and gemstones. And here I have three wonderful gentlemen who became not just companions in work, but also good friends. And they're the source of lots of gem knowledge, not just for me, but for yourselves as well. And the reason why I thought we have to talk about colored gemstones, and especially rare colors, is because one day I found myself in an office of a very famous jeweler in London. And I was talking about the book which I co-wrote, and actually you'll be able to see it there. It's about Paraiba tourmaline. And the lady who was talking to me, she says, well, I don't really understand what's the hype with the semi-precious gemstones, talking about Paraiba, a gemstone that commands sometimes thousands of dollars at auctions, or if you walk around here and see it. And I kind of got a little bit offended, like how can you call a gemstone semi-precious when not it's just beautiful and valuable, but it also comes, in my opinion, whatever comes from Mother Earth, these resources are not endless. So whatever comes from the earth, for me, it's all precious. Whatever we make in the lab, maybe that's what should be called semi-precious. So today we will discuss one of these subjects is what is semi-precious, what is precious nowadays. But before we go further, I want you guys to give a little bit more information about yourselves and what gemstones you specialize in. So Carl, we'll start with you.
Hello, I'm Carl Arnoldi from HC Arnoldi, and I'm the fourth generation of a gemstone cutting factory in Germany. And our specialty is aquamarine. Like our major market is aqua, and we are very famous for aquamarine in any kinds of shapes, styles, and sizes.
I'm David Nassy from New York of 100% Natural. I'm a lapidary and a fine natural colored gemstone purveyor. We deal with ruby, sapphire, emeralds, tourmaline, garnets, alexandrites, opals, all colors of the rainbow. So,
yeah, my name is Konstantin Wild. I come from Germany, from the town of Ida Oberstein. In my family, I'm the 10th generation in colored stones, and I'm honored to be here. We do all colored stones except diamonds.
Well, I guess the first and the most question I hear a lot is, what is happening in the world of colored gemstones? What are the trends? Konstantin, will you share with us your findings?
Sure. First of all, the world is very colorful. Our human eyes, we can see millions of colors. And in jewelry or in the trade, about 100 different minerals are used for jewelry. But for high jewelry, mainly the main mineral groups are used, or the prominent mineral groups are used, which is corundum, which are the beryls, the tourmalines, the topaz, and the garnets. And these groups, they come in a huge variety of colors. They come in a huge variety of species. And like, for example, we look at the corundum, which we all know as ruby and sapphires are corundums. But besides rubies and sapphires, we also have yellow corundum, we have green corundums, we of course we have already mentioned the rubies. Then we have fancy colors like tile-colored corundums. We have pink sapphires. We have purple sapphires. We have orange sapphires, and many more. So even only the corundum world is already an enormous spread of colors. It's not only ruby and sapphire, it's a whole spread of, it's not only blue and red, it's a whole spread of colors. And then if we go on to the beryls, of course, beryl, everybody knows emerald is a beryl, everybody knows aquamarine is a beryl. But again, the beryl group, it's very colorful. Besides emeralds and aquamarines, we find yellow beryl, we have green beryls, we have bluish green beryls, we have the pink morganite, or the very rare red big spite, which some people sometimes call red emerald. So in the beryl group, again, we have a whole variety of different colors. The next big mineral group are the tourmalines. And the tourmalines, everybody knows, okay, there's a red tourmaline, there's green tourmaline, but again, there's many more colors than red and green and tourmaline. We have everybody, we just mentioned it, the neon swimming pool blue Paraiba tourmalines, which everybody talks about the last 30 years. We have the purple variety, the purple Cuprian tourmalines. We have the yellow canary tourmalines, the rubellite, the ruby-like tourmalines. We know pink tourmalines, even brown, gray, and black tourmalines. Latest we have these bluish-green lagoon tourmalines. And actually this week I got a call for a colorless tourmaline, which I wasn't even aware that it exists, and it had a funny name that I even can't remember, but there are even colorless tourmalines around. So the tourmaline group is very big.
So do you find that some colors are more in demand nowadays than others? Reds, blues, or not so much?
Okay, let me finish with this and I tell you. Or we can do this in between. Like years ago, I thought, okay, the color world has to link up with the fashion industry. Like if certain colors are in fashion, the gemstone industry has to be able to supply matching color to the colors in fashion. And I tried that for many years, and I tell you, it did not work. The problems with gemstones is you have to buy them when they're available, and not to get them when they're in demand. And to match the colors of the fashion world with the coincidentally find of that color in nature, it's kind of impossible. So I gave up trying to follow the certain tones of colors because they're fashionable right now.
But what about trends maybe in cuts? Because personally, I find that over the last, say, 7 years, there is more fancy cut gemstones which are in demand because they're so unique. They help to express your personality, be unique yourself if you wear something of a kite cut or bullet cut or any other cut. Do you feel like there is more demand nowadays for fancy cut stones?
No.
Good answer.
Okay. Okay, and an anecdote, I have to admit, when I started more than 40 years ago, I was looking at my friend Bernd Munsteiner, who was making fancy cuts, and I wanted to be like him, so I also started making fancy cuts. Instead of octagons, I make 5-angle whatever creations, and I tried to be creative and try to be a fancy cut supplier, and luckily, not too much later, I found out that there can only be one Munsteiner in the world. So I leave the area of fancy cuts. I really leave to my friends the Munsteiners, and I concentrate myself strictly on classical cuts. Oval shape, cushion shape, octagon. I have to admit, I hate heart-shaped cuts because I think it's a torture to the crystal. And pear shapes, it depends, so and so, but my heart is for oval, cushions, and octagon cuts.
Well, since we're sitting here, one thing we have to agree on, that the color is on the rise, that there is huge demand in color gemstones generally. Maybe, David, maybe you can elaborate on this. Why do you think color is so much on the rise?
I think a lot of it has to do with the expression of self, and people are using color as an expression of themselves or being attracted to a certain color. I find intense pink right now to be a very popular color. Also, like a pinkish purple has been somewhat in demand recently, if you can say that. But to Konstantin's point, natural gems come out of the earth, and you can't say, I want a pink stone, earth, please give me the pink stone, or I want the purple stone. It's what's available, what people can see and touch and connect with. That sort of helps drive that demand or the desire.
Carl, your family has been in gemstones for how many years now?
So we founded 1919, so it's already more than 100 years ago. And we found that colored gemstones are getting much, much more important in the trade, especially beyond the three big things like ruby, sapphire, and emerald. Different types of stones really catched up in the last years. You have never heard of a Paraiba 100 years ago, and now you can really see that we have a rise of a color in different type of colors that we have not seen before.
Now, let's talk about prices. Actually, you want to add something, please?
Yeah, I have a point which I think is very interesting. I think nowadays many women, they buy jewelry for themselves. So they buy what they like, and women like colors. So that's why I see colored gemstone jewelry in a rise. In the old days, not to be rude, but I have to say, if a man buys jewelry for his wife or girlfriend, the only thing important was to see the value. So the bigger this white bling bling is, the more money he has spent, the more important he is to me. I think this is over. Today the women are buying for themselves, and they buy what they like, and generally women are more attached to colors, and they buy the colors they like.
I like it that you talk about women wear jewelry because, frankly, even the role of jewelry has changed over time. If in the past, okay, go 10, 20 years ago, jewelry was what? Status symbol. It was investment. It was something to show your, well, belong to the club, let's call it that way. When nowadays women buy jewelry more and more to just express their mood, to complete their look. It became more an accessory for even enhancing your mood every day. Then that's why women don't gravitate only towards ruby, sapphire, and emerald, which is a historically important stone and historically is known, but also they are happy to explore all the color palette out there. Because one day I don't want to wear ruby, I'm in a pink mood. I want to wear something soft pink and sweet. Another day I want to wear something yellow. Maybe I just don't like green color or red or blue. Nowadays they're more comfortable, I feel, exploring the whole palette. I don't know if you guys agree, but if you want to mention something while we're speaking, it would be great to have a conversation. But okay, talking about gemstone prices, I can't wait to hear this. Is there any gems that go up in price which didn't happen before?
I think we see this in general in colored gemstones. If you see stones like Severite, Paraiba, and stones that were not so well recognized over the last years, you can really see that there's price rise in all of these stones. And I've barely seen any colored stone that has dropped in prices in the last year, especially among those stones that were not recognized in the trade before, like a Severite or a Paraiba or a Spinel or even Mandarin garnet, rise tremendously over the last years.
Well, I have a question which wasn't on our list, but it came up. Is there any gemstones which are becoming more and more rare because the mines are getting depleted? Because that also affects the price and desirability among the collectors. What stones are becoming rarer because nature doesn't give us enough resources? Is there any we can pinpoint?
I can comment on that. I would say, off the top of my head, Paraiba tourmaline, red beryl. Those are the two that come out most prominently, but also red topaz is imperial topaz.
Maybe also Mandarin garnet, which was very low recognized over the last years. And if I would have sold a Mandarin garnet to a client, he would say, "What it is? Why is it an orange stone?" And the price was always on the medium level. But since it was recognized by the high jewelry industries, the price has really picked up quite fast. And a lot of people are using now Mandarin garnets in each type of different jewelries. And it really gives a new hint into the color and makes Mandarin garnet much more attractive, much more famous to the public.
Please.
We have to understand that in colored stones, the quantities mined are very, very small. And the Paraiba is the best example. Like when the Paraibas came on the market, by the time they were cut, by the time they were sold to the jewelry manufacturers, by the time they got to the showcases of the jewelers and the consumer noticed, oh, there's a beautiful new gem, the mine was basically already exhausted. So what happens? If something becomes rare, of course, the prices go up. And when the prices go up and the availability is not there, it's the same like in the stock market. Then everybody wants one because, oh, the prices are going up. I don't have a Paraiba. My girlfriend has a Paraiba ring. I also want a Paraiba ring. There's none on the market. So this is it's fortunate on one side, but unfortunate on the other side. This brings the prices up, which makes it difficult for the dealers. And it's usually, like, that's maybe the answer to your question, like whenever the supply stops and the market gets aware that there was something beautiful that they maybe missed, like the Mandarin garnets, then suddenly everybody wants one, and then the prices, they raise like crazy. And the best example is the Brazilian Paraibas that I remember in the first First time I got them offered in Ida Oberstein, they were like 600 a carat for the nicest stones, and I said, it cannot be tourmaline, it's 100 a carat at that time. And we all saw them rocket rise today for the 600 at that time. Today I would be happy to get it for 200,000 a carat, yeah.
I just want to point on something that you mentioned, which is that rarity increases desirability. That concept of it's so rare, I need to have it. And that drives prices up like wildfire. So if like the Paraíba, the mine is exhausted, and then people, they say, oh, it's so rare, I have to have one, and it just keeps going up and up and up because there's no more.
Yeah. A story I always like to tell. I was in Australia 20 years ago at the Argyle diamond mine. And they were telling me that the annual production in raw diamonds was 220 tons. 220,000 kilos of rough diamonds every year, of which 95% were for jewelry purposes. Okay, I go to my Canary yellow tourmaline mine. Over 10 years, the production was 10 kilos. Just to understand the rarity and the difference. And out of these 10 kilos, only a handful was cuttable quality. So there is not much on the market, and then if the customer or if the market becomes aware that there's something rare and the prices go up, we are locked tight because we cannot supply.
Before the next question, I actually want to know out of the audience who are dealing in stones or directly related to gemstones. Can you raise your hand? Okay. Because I actually heard a lot of interesting things, and I would like to sum up what actually affects the price of a gemstone. We all hear about, of course, carats, the size of the gem. It's the clarity, how clean it is, and the cut and the color. But I heard things like desirability. What other things would you summarize for the desirability and for the price of the gemstone? Is there something we haven't mentioned?
I think also the attraction of the stone itself is very important. How fast it is recognized by the consumer at the end, and how often it is used also by jewelers. So the knowledge of the stone that needs to be spread, and then you can see if the stone is recognized fast. So supply, of course, is very important. Desire is very important. And on the other hand, the recognition of the trade.
What else would affect the price? There is one thing which is very common.
Okay, prices, of course, in the free market are always between what someone has to offer and what someone else is willing to pay for it. And generally, I really, with my 40 years of experience, I have to say all colored stones are much too cheap. There's so much work in the mind, so much good luck, so much hunting for these really rare things of earth. It's really limited. I mean, people they pay 100,000 for bitcoins because this is some digital thing which is limited. But the colored stones, good quality colored stones, they are super limited by nature, and they're only found by coincidence, by hard work, by pioneers who are digging for, and then they find it, they're happy, they offer it, and they're cut, and they go to the market. I personally think, from what my experience is, what long let's use the word supply chain, or what long chain of luck there has to be till a stone gets to the market. The price that the consumers actually has to be willing to pay for it must be much higher than what we see today.
David, what about traceability, for example, or treatments?
Yeah, I mean, traceability and treatments play a huge role in pricing and demand. There was one thing that we didn't touch up on about this. It's the increased access to information and the increased awareness of gemstones and what they are and why they're so precious or why they're so rare. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we didn't have technology to separate certain gemstones from one another. Now we're understanding different mineral species, different gemstones, and so that technology is driving awareness and educating all of us as to these precious creations that the earth is giving us. And that is driving the desirability, the awareness, and it's also just helping us understand what may or may not come out of the earth and where these deposits may be. So to go back to the traceability and treatment issue, there's definitely an increased demand for traceability and wanting to know where these gems come from. They're not coming from places of conflict. The miners or the local economies are benefiting from the gemstone production or gemstone extraction. And also treatments, because let's take corundum, for instance. You could, with 99% of the production, treat and have it look beautiful. But that 1%, which is rare, and that rarity drives desire and demand, that increases the value.
I liked how we also talked about more accessible information, and of course a lot of it you can find online. We're more aware about gemstone varieties, treatments, all the aspects related to gemstones. But also gemstones became more accessible thanks to social media, thanks to online. And actually, Carl, I want to ask you about your experience with GemHype, which is a website where you can shop gemstones online.
Yes, so my sister and I, we established an online shop for buying gemstones, but just for the trade. So it's a B2B online shop. And for us at the beginning, it was actually quite difficult to convince our customer buying stones online. Because as you can see yourself, when you see a picture of a gemstone and then you might see it afterwards in person, there can be a huge shift in the colors that you see on the pictures. So we figured, first of all, we need to teach our customers that they're willing to order something from us online. And we figured out that there's a lot of trust involved. Even though we are an online shop, we thought it's going to be quite easy. Like we place a product on it, and then somebody orders it from us, and that's it. But we figured that the people, they're very, very rarely at the beginning wanting to buy something online. So we started to offer consignment online, and we have a very, very good customer support in general. So even if there's the picture on the online shop, we're still giving other options to sending extra videos, to sending stones on consignment, to have a talk, to feel like the personality that we actually thought of moving out with an online shop, but we cannot. With selling colored gemstones online, you always have to have personality behind, even though we tried. And now it's working much, much better than before. We are selling actually quite good and well on the online shop, only for the B2B market, because we just want to support our customers and not just go off them. So after figuring out that we have to be very close to our customers, even though we work in an online shop, we now doing quite good and selling online.
Every startup takes time, right? But if you're true to your vision, you'll succeed. So how many years has it been that you're running?
We founded GemHype in 1919, so a lot of people might think we did on Corona because the launch was in April 2020. And so we actually launched on a quite right spot. And we actually thought we were riding the hype of buying stuff online. But it was like a sloppy start, I would say, at the beginning. So it needed a lot of convincing. But yeah, 5 years we are doing, more than 5 years we are doing now GemHype, and we are very happy with it. And I think it will continue. And yeah, we are on track.
Does the audience says yes to shopping gemstones online? Raise your hand if you would consider, if you haven't bought yet, you would consider, or you have already bought a gemstone online. Okay, 30%. Is still something relatively new, and including the things that I do, which is content creation about jewelry and gemstones online, even though I've been doing this for 12 years now, bringing you the highlights of exhibitions or jewelry and gems out there. For many people, it's still something relatively new and unheard of. But I can really feel, and guys, I would love to hear your opinion. Do you feel that social media is changing the industry as well? Since now it's so accessible, you open your phone and you can see not just the jewelry that's influencers showed, but also your assortments, when before gem industry was so behind the scenes and was so secretive.
I think that's my question. I think education is most important for the confidence of the consumer. In old days, this education was done by books, was done by special magazines, and was done by gemological classes in various schools. And of course, today with the online media, this is much easier. And education today of the consumer, they can have it worldwide 24/7 for free by social media. Even by TV shopping, they get education. And the consumer, however, he must, out of this masses of information that gets spread out to them, they always must question the intention of the sender of that information. Yeah, I don't want to blame anyone in particular, but there's a lot of junk information sent out, a lot of junk people leading, telling them, "Oh, this is the most rarest, the most whatever something," and it's from my professional point of view, it's just junk. So the consumer has the chance to get quality information on social media, has the chance to get quality information on internet, but he has to assort himself what's quality information and what's junk information.
I think the responsibility is also on the consumer, on the person who buys gemstones and jewelry, to do their homework, to actually understand what they're looking at, because there is no longer an expectation just to come and be advised to buy this and this and believe blindly to the seller, right? Is it what you're trying to say?
And I have one sentence prepared specially for you, because I really think that Katharina's work as an influencer, as a quality influencer, as an honest influencer, is really helping the trade, the colored stone trade, to spread the word out and to educate the consumer. And I think we should give her an applause.
Well, because I do a lot of homework. You know, I'm a gemologist as well by education, because I started from learning, from knowing what I'm talking about. No, actually, I started from passion for jewelry and gemstones, and that led me to learn about jewelry and gems and go on courses and constantly learn. And I want to thank you for giving me knowledge. Every time I come to an exhibition, every time I open a new book, go to a new jewelry viewing, I learn something. And I want you guys also to take time to speak with the exhibitors, to learn about gemstones, to hold them in your hands, to give yourself time to select properly, and also give yourself time to think what you're looking at and is it really what you want to invest in. Anyway, so do you think, guys, that there is any gemstone that has a great renaissance? It's coming back.
Coming back. Coming back. I don't know that any of the gemstones really went away. They're all maybe the cashmere sapphires, but they've always been sort of desired for their rarity and their historical prevalence. I feel like zircon, maybe, I don't know that I would use the word coming back. Actually, black opal, I would say that's coming back. Over 100 years ago, I think black opals, or opals in general, were more desired, were more appreciated, and I think rumors, or there may be some historical evidence of this, that the diamond companies or diamond producers bad-mouthed opals, or this was just the lore that opals became bad luck, and they really fell by the wayside, and so they became less appreciated. But now I see a lot of my customers and a lot of people really appreciating black opal. I'm wearing one now. It's, they're beautiful stones. They're the play of color, and it's just one stone I would say is having a renaissance.
And for me as well, there's garnet in general, because when we see old type of jewelry, we often see like red garnet. And when I talk to customer of ours or friends, and they always say, "Oh, it's a garnet, it's a low value stone," and then I will show them, okay, there's garnets and there's garnets. Like we have a Severite, for example. That's so nice, has so much luster, has a beautiful color. We have demantoid. And I think garnet, if you like just look at the group of garnet in general, I think that made a major comeback and the recognition of garnet being a treasure and not just a cheap stone for Baroque jewelry. I think that's really came back with quite strong demand at the end.
Absolutely. I mean, the garnet group, it's just so vast. And there was a great graphic on Instagram that I saw about the different minerals in the group and how manganese replaces iron for different, and I think it was NC Minerals or something I saw it. But yeah, the garnet group is just so cool.
Well, now we're talking different groups. What about tourmaline group? I mean, I love tourmalines. Ruby light.
Okay. I think I get a laugh, but I really have to admit, one of my most favorite stones is amethyst. I really love amethyst. These African colors, this really nice purplish blue amethyst, and everybody thinks amethyst is a cheap stone, and there are many synthetics around, but natural, nice amethyst, I think it's a really totally under-evaluated stone, and for some reason I would like to see this to be rediscovered.
Well, and also the tones of the older material, like the pinkish purple rather than the pure purple. Those, as I mentioned before, I see really gaining more attention, and that's the color of the old amethyst, is like the pink purple hues.
Can I involve the audience in the next question? Because I would love to hear what's, in your opinion, is the next big thing. Which gemstone is going to be on the rise, or it's already happening maybe? I think there is a problem with the mic.
Is it working? Yeah, thank you for your presentation. My question is the gemstone named Alexandrite, which is very little exposed here, and we do not see a lot of information about Alexandrite, which is a wonderful gemstone, changing colors and precious for me personally. Thank you.
You want to know more about the origins of Alexandrite, or the increased desirability, or just in general? Everything. How many hours do you have? Alexandrite. I mean, there are so many locations with beautiful Alexandrites that are coming out. The most desired hues, I find, are the pure greens to the purples or purplish reds. Alexandrite comes from Alexander the Great, if I'm not mistaken, of Russia, right? It was originally found in Russia and named after him. And the original Russian stones, again, correct me if I'm wrong, please, were a true green to a red. Emerald by day, ruby by night. The incandescent light of the night would make them red. The daylight would make them green. So they are a true phenomenal stone. Now we're getting deposits from India and Brazil and East Africa, Madagascar, Tanzania, all of which have a beautiful bluish green to purplish red hues. There's Sri Lanka, which has great deposits, which tend to be a little bit in the brownish green to brownish red. There's a great market for it. There's a great desire. I've seen increase. It's actually one of the stones that's on my long list of stones which are becoming more popular, because I couldn't name one. I have a list of them, but this is one of them. And I mean, they're beautiful, and they're certainly gaining more attention as everybody's being educated as to what they are, and there's more supply to fulfill that demand, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know. Does that answer a decent amount?
What is, Konstantin, your next big thing? Which is the gemstone of today? Or even your favorite?
Okay.
Amethyst.
You learned amethyst, which is maybe no, of course not. No, the gemstone I live for, I love for, it's imperial topaz from Brazil, and I've been collecting that all my life. Whenever I saw a good one, I bought it when I could afford it. And it's a gem which has not been recognized very much by the market, because it's a story. It's just a topaz, blue topaz, irradiated bullshit, cheap TV shopping commodity. But the natural topaz, the untreated imperial topaz, it's a very, very beautiful, very rare stone. It comes in all these golden, orangish, pinkish to reddish shades, all the sunsets colors you find in an imperial topaz. And I really personally, I love orange color anyway, but I love imperial topaz overall. And maybe, I don't know, maybe next year or in 5 years or in 10 years, it will be the gem to ask for. And I'm happy I have my private collection full.
Well, again, it comes to the lack of knowledge out there, right? And lack of information, because I recently had this kind of public announcement. I did a reel about zircon and cubic zirconia because it was paining me that such an amazing gemstone is underappreciated because of the name, you know? And
it's exactly the same thing with spinel. Spinel, everybody is thinking of synthetic spinel. Verneuil synthetic spinel is around since more than 100 years, very cheap, and was a fraud substitute for rubies and sapphires. So spinel was always thought, oh, it's a cheap rubbish, yeah. And until luckily some colleagues promoted it. And suddenly the world saw what beautiful natural spinels are around there. And today, the spinel is one of these stones on the market that everybody wants.
do you guys? Oh, we have more questions. Okay, lady first.
Tanzanite was the comment. What about Tanzanite?
I love Tanzanite.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me. What about Tanzanite? Yeah.
So for me personally, I'm also a big fan of Tanzanite, and Tanzanite always recognized as the blue or bluish purple stones, but which I personally find very fascinating are the off colors of Tanzanite. There are green Tanzanite that really have a fascinating colors, and I've seen rough parcels that look like Severite color, which is so amazing. And I think those type of colors that are a bit off the blue are the ones that are really not recognized, but they're so rare. It's super rare. You've seen pink stones, you've seen green stones, and more or less nobody knows.
Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, and I think there's something that should be talked about. But at the other hand, it's a stone that's for collectors because there's such a less production of those type of stones. So I think it will not be recognized in the world so fast because the supply is too low. But for blue Tanzanite, for example, I like also a lot. And I think it should get more recognition from the market than it actually is getting now because it's a beautiful color. And just one source in the world, I would say, which is like one source that produces gem quality gemstones.
And even in the shows, you never see like a lot of colored Tanzanite.
Yeah, even in a show like this. This is like the show where a lot of different vendors come all over the world, like the best of the world, kind of. And even though there, you see like a handful of colored Tanzanites. So you see how rare it is.
I saw the colored one in Royal Touch. I saw the whole palette. I was like mesmerized because even though I'm in the jewelry for so long, when you see it in real life, it's a different perspective.
And the shine of
Yeah, it's the shine, it's the color, it's the hue sometimes, because it's also, what's the technical term when it has two colors? Pleochroic. So
Pleochroic.
it's, to your eye, it looks really intriguing. Yeah.
So
There was,
before we move on, I actually have a question and a comment about Tanzanite for us here. And maybe this will help answer some of your question. So Tanzanite historically was only blue, right? And now we're using Tanzanite to describe other colors. And I think there's some dealers who are still using the zoisite terminology, so like pink zoisite, which is considered by some as pink Tanzanite, or green zoisite, which is green Tanzanite for others. So I think maybe my question is, how do we as a trade come to an agreement on how to market these things so that there's no confusion? And I think that would help the end consumer as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. But as you are from New York, you know why they changed the name Suicide. Sounds like suicide. So I don't think that marketing up a stone as red suicide stone doesn't sound so good, and I think that's why a lot of dealers use the term red tanzanite. Sounds much nicer than a red suicide stone. But it's true, we have no agreement in general how we call it in the trade. Is a tanzanite just blue, or can a tanzanite be red?
There was another question.
Hello, I'm from Volyn Deposit from Ukraine. So my question is, why it's our beryl, our bicolor topaz, maybe it's not so popular as a morganite or imperial topaz? What is your opinion about it?
The Russian topaz, you mean?
I mean Ukrainian one. I'm from Ukraine,
Yes.
from Deposit directly. So as a specimen, Heliodor, it's very popular. But as a gemstone,
Which gemstone you say?
Heliodor, beryl.
Heliodor, yeah, sure.
And bicolor topaz also, because it's also very rare thing. That's why my question is, why it's so not popular in gemstone world as a cut gemstone?
Oh, it is. I cut a lot of it when it was available years ago. To my knowledge, right now, the Ukrainian, for the last 10 years, they are not available because the mines are flooded. That's what I heard.
Our mine still working.
Okay, so please contact me.
Konstantin will sell all the Ukrainian topaz. In my opinion, I think that the material that I've seen has been a little muted in tones, and as of recent, I feel that the brighter tones have done better than the muted, slightly brownish pastel tones. However, I will, with that caveat, say I've seen bicolor sapphires gain a lot of attention, and so I think that just give it a little bit of time and more promotion
Marketing,
through
right?
marketing. Yeah,
This
I think
word.
that will drive.
I will show you examples. You will be impressed.
I'd be happy to see it.
Do you have them with you?
With me, I have only Heliodor. If it's
Okay, show us,
interesting,
show us.
Yes, I will
Pass
show
it
you.
around. Pass it around.
Pass it on, yeah.
Just for understanding that it's still working.
I think there was one more question from the audience.
That's exactly what I'm searching.
So now
can
it's a
buy it.
price war.
That's a beautiful specimen, though. It's. I think it'd be a shame to cut, but
If I may add, I think the thing is gemstone desirability hugely my God, how do I say that word? It's a lot comes from the consumer, right? What the consumer wants to wear and see. And the consumer world very much dependent on trends, because not every woman has the maybe her own opinion about what she wants to wear in terms of jewelry. She looks at the red carpet, she looks at what celebrity wears, she looks at what trends are out there in terms of Pantone color or something like this. So maybe the color hasn't been seen so much, or maybe there isn't desirability because of the marketing, as we said. So you need to communicate more about it.
But now you know that we're still working.
That was great
That's
marketing,
super.
by the way.
Well, getting on the hook of desirability, I was wondering about such stones like Imperial Topaz, the Paraíba. They went through a path, actually, they have been collected since decades. Like, I was not even born when people were already collecting Imperial Topazes as a special and pricey stone. Of course, the price evolved. And I was wondering, how do you see this movement? Because now we have few tourmalines, like the Lagoon tourmaline, which is coming up. How do you see this path from stones that are once unknown and they're starting to get traction in the trade and until they get into the customer's mouth?
I think if you look at jewelry brands in general, I think they get bored of using just the three simple colors like ruby, sapphire, and emerald. And so the designers want to express themselves differently than they have expressed themselves before. And there they started using colors like Paraíba tourmaline. It's such an extraordinary colors. And when a stone that's, for example, tourmaline blue and has a very vibrant colors rises in prices, and the people searching for substitutes that are also nice, and that's why also a lagoon tourmaline, which is a nice and blue color, actually kept rising as well. So it really sees the recognition of the industry that there's much more playing around with colors, much more playing around with different types of gemstones. And that knowledge that got spread and gets spread much, much faster through Katarina or even the jewelry brands really rises a lot of stones. And really the people and the consumer finds them so attractive and gets the recognition they actually deserve. So that's why I think if one color stone rises, it will move up all the types. So after Paraiba tourmaline, it's Lagoon tourmaline, which rises in price very fast because it's a wonderful stone that now gets the recognition that it actually should deserve.
What about mint tourmaline? Because
Of course, like if you look at the mint tourmaline, it's a vibrant color, so it's a nice fresh color. It's a more youth color, I would say. So if you have seen jewelry hundreds of years ago, it was mainly darker tones. Like if you have a ruby, it's like a deep, heavy tone. If you have seen an emerald, it's like more to a heavy, darker tone. So I think it's a lot of refreshment going on in the jewelry industries by using lighter, nicer, in my opinion, nicer colors. And yeah, it just gives more sparkle and more diversity in our business.
I'd love to comment on that question. So I believe you were asking about the pricing and why does it increase so much over perhaps a few decades, or so I think this is a very complex issue and there's a lot of contributing factors. First and foremost, it's speculation by dealers like ourselves. So if I'm presented with a new material of beautiful blue tourmaline, and I look in the market to see, oh, tourmaline's trading for $100. Okay, I've never seen anything like this. Maybe I'll pay $150. Maybe I'll pay $200. And this, let's say the late 80s or early 90s, this is when this is happening. If I'm not mistaken, that's when this came out. And I buy it. And I think, oh, you know, maybe in a month or 2 months, more will come out. And if I sell it, I'll buy more. But a month, 2 months goes by, there's no more material. So maybe I sell a few pieces, and I raise the prices of others. And 5 years goes along, 10 years goes along, there's still very limited production. Only a few of my best collectors have bought the stones for a premium, or a few designers or retailers or what have you. And then 15, 20 years goes by, I still don't see any more. And some stones come back in the market now, and I say, you know, I'd spend $1,000 a carat on this. Speculation, again, on the dealer's part. We're playing a huge role, but so is the limited availability, as is the desirability of the material. So blue is one of the tones that you don't find in nature, a vivid blue, you know, in flowers and just in nature, you don't see much vivid blue. So I think that's one of the most desired colors when it comes to gemstones, and Paraiba being electric. And so these contributing factors over the years have driven it up. You don't see the material, the dealers have the speculation, and there you go.
We had one before here, and then I'm going in order.
We are London-based, and over the last few years, a lot more customers asking about heat treatment. They want untreated stones. I would say that for the last 10 years, I was always telling that 95% of all sapphires mined today receive heat treatment, but it seems that I have to revise that figure, according to what you said. I wonder whether, due to technological progress, it has been possible to bring up more substandard material that is mined today to get gem quality with regards to sapphires.
With regards to sapphires, I shouldn't say that I'm an expert on the mining of and the quantity of. When reading gemological articles, I say 99% are heated because that's what I've read and been told. So 1%, 2% is untreated, and in order for sapphire to be commercially viable, the 99% needs to be treated. A lot of the newer production is from Madagascar, and depending on the tones, it doesn't need to be treated, or depending on the clarity, it may not need to be treated. But the blue, as I mentioned before, is one of the most desired colors. And in order to get the blue out of historically Sri Lankan, Madagascar sapphires, you need to heat treat grayish material, included material, to get that blue. So rather than have a gray star, which may sell for $200 a carat if you're lucky, they heat treat the material and they can charge $1,000 to $2,000 a carat wholesale. You want to add something?
I think it started with all the attributes to a gemstone. Like when I started, I get back to my amethyst. The amethyst was an amethyst, or aquamarine was an aquamarine. Nobody cared where it came from. And at some point, I start writing African amethyst, African amethyst, or African aquamarine. Only the word Africa immediately opens a whole image. You see the giraffes, the lions, the countryside, the sunrises. So just the attribute African amethyst or African aquamarine gives you a totally emotional world in addition to the aquamarine, for example. Yeah? And these attributes, of course, then with labs starting getting more popular, and so they're getting other attributes, trying to teach people, okay, a gemstone has to come from a certain country to be more valuable than from another country, which I totally disagree, because countries are political borders, and I don't care about the origins. Like if it's a country origin, it has no meaning to me. For me, it's only the plain beauty of a stone. But when so we had the attributes of the countries, and then they come on suddenly, heating. It's heating something very terrible. I mean, all gemstones, they grew in hell, they grew in Mother Earth, in a dirty kitchen in the earth, went through so much heat through everything, and basically, like the heating of most gems is just a last step to awake again the color which is already in a stone. So like all materials that we regard natural, even the wood in front of me of the table, it's natural wood, but of course it's what probably was heated to dry it out, so it won't break, or it's oiled or something. So even if they're natural products, they need some kind of, let's say, human processing to become a market commodity. So let's say low temperature heating, for example, for me is nothing unethical. And as we today learned, even many certificates which say no heat, now it turns out, okay, actually there was some heating, but this was just not detected. So I would leave all these negative attributes, I would leave them away in communicating gemstones. Yeah, if you say, okay, we only want gemstones which come from Kashmir, and we only want them to be unheated. Okay, there's one stone maybe in the whole hall here. So there's no market, there's no supply, there's no way to survive with this approach. So I think we have to find positive attributes, like the example with Africa, with the sunsets and the lions and the tigers. We have to emphasize on the positive things, on the color, on the pleochroism, or on the characters that certain stones have, like the color change on the alexandrites or the stars. So we have to point out the positive things and forget about many of those technical issues, which, from my point of view, it's lab business.
Konstantin is like a woman, you know, women were all beautiful, but we still put makeup on, right? So it's like makeup for a gemstone.
Yeah, thank you. My question is not about gemstones traceability, gemstone treatment, but my question it is about treatment thanks to gemstones. Because nobody talk about gemstones therapy. Because nowadays since a while, it's well known, but some colors are, yes, for powerfulness of gemstones, for in spirituality sessions, in La Mecca, the biggest gemstones, black. But which color among the other colors, if you can talk about that now?
My father was very much into the spiritual and healing power of gemstones. You mentioned something about color, and there is color therapy. So depending on which color soothes you, that's subjective, right? So for me, I love all the colors. My daughters ask me, Papa, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite? I say, I can't choose one. The rainbow. That's my favorite color, the rainbow. For other people in my family, they can't stand the color red. So they see red and they go red. And blue might be their calming place, right? So, but the spiritual and healing nature of gemstones, there's whole books written on these. And I find the subject to be very fascinating. I do wonder if there might be books here that talk about the spiritual and healing power of gems. They're some of the Earth's oldest creations. I mean, they have to have some sort of power and lore within them. But is that? Yeah. In Mecca, I don't know.
Okay. I think we can take one more question.
Actually, I have 2 comments and 2 questions. My engagement ring was a 3.5 carat Savorite because diamond was too ordinary. And secondly, I have bought gemstones online, not eBay gemstones, but from companies like yours. And I've always been overwhelmed by what I've gotten, because online you get the one dimension, and when you get that gemstone in your hand, you go, "Wow, did I score?" You know. So I would encourage other people to take the leap of faith. One question is, every year Pantone comes out with a panoply of colors for the year. Do you guys pay attention to that? Or do your customers say, "Oh, I want a rose-colored whatever"?
Actually, we see it most of the time, and we follow a bit the Pantone colors, but I assume, on my eye, it doesn't really affect the market in colored stones so extreme. What more affects the market are celebrities that wearing certain type of gemstones. If you saw Meghan Markle wearing the aquamarine octagon, the demand of aquamarines and octagon, especially in Asia, like rise so fast. So I think that the Pantone color didn't get so much recognition in our trade. I think it's more for fashion, which is much, much faster because gemstones are not so fast. So I think it's there. Some use it also for purchasing stones, but it really doesn't affect us, like especially our companies. I don't see how it's about you, but it doesn't push us the colors that are in the Pantone range for us.
Yeah, agreed. I see it being used as a conversation tool, perhaps a bit of a marketing tool by some trade organizations, but and a conversation piece. But perhaps it becomes more popular as a complementary to that Pantone color. So if the Pantone color is a purple, maybe a pink that complements the color, which would be the dress of a celebrity on the red carpet, might become popular. But
I've always been very curious if this was something that, because when the trade press, the jewelry trade press picks it up, and of course they name the gemstones and how this could complement your coloring, and oh my goodness, you know. But my last question is, Mr. Wild, what happened to Intergem? Are we going to see that again?
Okay, let me reply in the order. You can post 3 questions I have to address. Okay, the first one. Congratulations for your wedding ring with the colored stone. It's a new trend. I'm really feeling it in my office that I'm getting calls for gemstones for wedding rings.
Well, this was 30 years ago.
Yeah, today. I'm talking about...
You're a trendsetter.
I'm talking about the last year, yeah? I'm getting more calls for colored stones for wedding rings. Great. Second thing, Pantone colors. I tried it for 10 years or even longer. I mean, it was always a nice thing. Okay, the next year, Pantone color, it's a lila pink or something. And then I squeezed my stones to fit into that color range. Like getting the calls from the journalists, do you have something in Pantone color? And then okay, it can be some there. But as I said, there are millions of colors the human eye can see, so you never can match a gemstone variety to this Pantone color. So I totally gave that up following the Pantone scheme. And the last question, Intergem. Intergem, it's a trade fair in Ida Oberstein, which was there for around 35 years, started in the 80s. I was an exhibitor from the day one. And we have to say, having local trade fairs, specialized trade fairs, they were born out of the spirit of the 80s. We have to remember there was no internet. Yeah, there was. If you want to source something, we had to. We could not send emails, we could not send photos. I think fax was not even invented. Yeah, so in order to purchase something, you really had to go to the source to source them, and that's why Intergem was there in Ida Oberstein to source. Today, all the important Ida Oberstein dealers, they travel around the world. You meet them in here, you meet them in Geneva, in Hong Kong, in Tucson, or any other place, you name it, someone from Ida Oberstein is there. So it's not that important anymore to have specialized local fairs. All my life I supported Intergem because it was always a great event. We had not only customers coming in, we had suppliers coming in, we had the press people coming in. It was always kind of, let's say, a highlight of the year having the Intergem. But business-wise, it turned out to be not beneficial for most exhibitors, so they gave it up.
Okay, well, at this wonderful note,
you don't see it being revised to be relived, maybe next year or the next 2 years?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not on the board of the show. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
well, thank you all for your questions. I think we're coming to the end of this talk. Thank you for being here with me on stage.
Thank you.
And I would love to encourage you guys to follow Konstantin, Carl, and David on Instagram to learn more about gemstones.
Thank you, Katarina, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.